We should all be willing to be arrested if it means that we're going to protect our freedoms and secure our liberties. That's the least we can do, is be willing to be arrested. There are tens of thousands of Americans that have died for that right. I'm okay with being arrested.
My name is Matt Matan, and I thank you for allowing me to come up to speak tonight. I want to say shame on you. Shame on each one of you that voted to disenfranchise 15,000 plus people.
Mr. Matan.
I'm sorry, I'm going to comment on this.
Mr. Matan, then I'm going to have to ask you to sit down.
You as a council
Mr.
tonight
Matan,
have just decided to tell 15,000
Mr.
plus
Matan,
people in Asheville
I don't
that
want
they
to see
are
you get
beneath
arrested
you,
on television.
that they must
Mr. Matan.
they must have a different set of standards.
Mr. Matan.
Everyone is going to see what you have just done to 15,000
Mr.
people in
Matan,
Asheville
let's
tonight.
not make an issue out of you being arrested or asked to live.
When I was 4 years old, I was putting on little puppet shows for the whole neighborhood. I was organizing parades of the kids to go through the town, and I'd say, oh, here's our theme, and we'd do something. I've just always, seen myself as being in front of a lot of people. I mean, as long as I can remember, even, before I can remember. My mom telling me stories about how, like at church or something, getting up and talking to the whole congregation when I'm 4 years old and not blinking an eye, just as if we're sitting here talking now. So I think just people are programmed different, and I was fortunate to find my way into forums where not only I can do what I love and what so far people have felt I do okay, they're supporting it, but I'm also able to make a living doing it, which is really cool.
The rest of this evening as high pressure remains in control up and down.
I don't understand why more talk show hosts don't utilize chat rooms and things. It gives a whole nother element to the show. It's like having a live focus group too. I mean, I say something on the air, there's the response, unfiltered, unchecked, no censoring it out or anything. And I think that there's a lot of egos in talk radio. There has to be. I mean, you get out there 15, 20 hours a week saying what you think and having to stand by it. You need a little bit of self-inflated confidence, but I think a lot of them don't like to be challenged and don't like to see negativity about what they say or the way they say it. And so chat rooms may not be conducive to a lot of talk egos.
Than ever before.
Take a stand with Matt Matan. To get in on the conversation, dial 240-9962 or toll free 800-570-9962. Now, live from the Matt Cave, it's Matt Matan.
It is Matt Matan. Thank you, good voice guy. And this is the Take a Stand program. I am your happy and humble host. And, Forrest, I got an email during the news break that said I was showing off today. They said I was showing off. Yeah, with a documentary film crew in the studio. They said I was showing off. I was peacocking, whatever that means. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a camera in your face. Yeah, you're going to try to show off a little bit. Of course you will.
Are you peacocking? Peacocking? I hope I'm doing it. If I'm not, tell me and I'll try harder.
I am peacocking.
Yes, you are, and you're quite colorful, Josh.
Are you peacocking? Yes. Are you peacocking,
Look at me,
Brian?
peacocking.
I'm just being me, man.
We are peacocking in the studio tonight.
Peacock. I do it, I'm sure. We all do it.
Wow, it's a big peacock himself.
Yes.
What's that about peacocking?
We must peacock some more.
Strut and prance.
Yes.
Actually, just about every time I walk out my door, I've been accused of that. And even if they don't accuse me, then I feel a little bit shamed if they don't at some point accuse me of peacocking.
What do you think peacocking is, Michael?
Well, I'd imagine that peacocking actually would be a reference to the bird, how it spreads its tail feathers in a display of male dominance.
Are you peacocking tonight?
I ain't touching that with a
Are you whipping it out?
Speaking of visuals, I think I have more than enough to do me in for the whole rest of the week.
To do her in for the whole rest of the week. Any other peacocking comments? You're not peacocking. You're not peeing. You're not. Well, never mind. So what are you? Nothing tonight. You're not blooming. You're not.
I'm hiding in the other room. What are you talking about?
You're a dandy.
I always work best when I'm being worshipped like a god. That's peacock.
They're peacocking you on. Give me a Joshua.
How about that?
What's that spell, Joshua? Kuka. Who is Kuka?
She's some super duper fan. I don't know exactly. I mean, I know that she's.
No, I'm not sure if she was on when I was on last week or not.
She usually gets on the discussion board, and she is a mega fan.
Let's get to the phone lines real quick. We've got some folks that would like to comment on our topic of the day so far. Everybody's an expert.
All media, with the exception of talk radio, is pretty well programmed today. I mean, we've heard stories about Fox. CNN was born out by AOL. I can tell you stories I know about AOL that I have. It's the only medium that we have that is truly dynamic is talk radio. Because the host still has the ability to take that person that's calling and talk to them. And the caller will challenge the host, and the host, of course, can challenge the caller, so a dialogue happens. You don't have this from listening to network news. You don't get this in Asheville Citizen Times, USA Today, even New York Times, and BBC. Everyone goes to BBC, think, oh, this is, give me a break, BBC. England is an appendage of the United States, or the United States is an appendage of England, I think. So talk radio still affords us that. Now, I think a lot of what's on talk radio is just as unconscious as people I talk to on the street.
I do a radio show in town. Have you heard it?
It's fabulous.
See, she's one of one kind. So we're kind of like celebrities in this town.
I dig it.
Everywhere we walk, we have talent.
Now, you listen to Verato's show seriously?
Yeah, I've caught it on 2 to 3 occasions.
Am I informative or entertaining? Which would you say?
I think a little bit of both. I think maybe guests make it more entertaining.
Yeah, the kind of guests we both have on, this is better than New York or LA, frankly.
Yeah,
really is.
It is. That is cool. You can just stop people at random on the street, and they've listened. They know who you are.
One listener at a time.
We're rated #1 Saturday nights here on News Radio 570 WWNC.
As soon as I walked in, people recognized me.
I think people are attracted sometimes to confidence, and I think it is an attractive feature. And, at certain levels of confidence too. And when that confidence turns into arrogance, there's basically 2 ways you can go. Basically, people will shy from you and say, "Oh man, that guy's a cocky asshole." But if he or she gets into a business where, like this one, talk radio, or superstardom, whatever you want, then that confidence suddenly turns into an asset.
I don't think that anybody involved in the business doesn't have any.
This here's a jam for all the fellas. Try to do what those ladies tell us. Get shot down cause you're overzealous. Play hard to get females get jealous. Okay, smarty, go to a party. Girls are...
I want to be able to get the show syndicated. And my radio show, people say it's new age. That's them saying it. They're identifying it. It's not new age.
When you're talking to thousands and thousands of people every night, yeah, your ego, the head, it gets bigger and bigger. Same way with a rock band. When I'm out there playing on stage, and I play for more and more people, the head gets bigger, the ego spins.
You kind of feed off the energy that people give you whenever they come to the show.
What I find hard to believe, though, is, you have that many people listening, and then you don't have, nobody calls.
Call us at 828-252-4348. I want to know who's out there, because are you interested in this stuff? Are you interested in what I do? Or are you just not listening? I know you're out there because the Arbitron said that we're #1 in our time slot, but where are you? I want to hear from you. 252-4348. Are you still breathing out there? Yeah, you're still breathing.
The ones who say, I'm never listening again, are the ones that can't turn the dial.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are just waiting with bated breath. Is he going to respond to me?
Yeah.
I attacked him. Is he going to hit back? I think they get off on it or something.
Making love to the microphone, baby.
It's a requirement.
Breaking it on Speaking of Strange.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, Tom.
I'm peacocking. We just broke a story on Speaking of Strange. Big stuff. I'm sure Mike is peacocking even more.
I'm peacocking. I'm peacocking. Look at me. This is amazing.
Okay. And now we'll open the phone lines again. West of the Rockies, no, I'm kidding.
If you're in American Samoa.
North of the Mason-Dixon line, south of the Mason, since we are in the south here. No.
Yeah. I like American Samoa, though. We ought to have a line for those guys.
The wild card line. No. I'm going to get sued, aren't I?
Probably, Scott.
No, I like Nori. He's got a great show.
Whatever it turns out to be, it's pretty cool that we are on the inside of the knowledge and the pursuit. Well, yeah, I mean, one thing about all these stories is that with whether it's ghosts or UFOs or whatever, rarely do you actually have some physical piece of evidence being offered up there for analysis by a variety of scientists. And I'd like to think that we are going to be a part of something that maybe does advance some area of the paranormal aside from just rehashing the same old possibilities and speculation over and over again.
Yeah.
If we can provide a voice for that kind of research, then that's what we're here for.
With radio, there's a lot more entertainment aspects involved. Because I consider myself, and people that I look up to in the business, are the ones who might call themselves infotainers. You know, they provide information and have a philosophy behind what they do, but at the same time they try to make it entertaining. Was that line from The Gladiator? Are you not entertained?
Nigerians are out there. You just won't call. I don't know why not.
I'm Joshua P. Warren talking with Micah Hanks, and I hope you have been listening to this program over the past hour because you heard some truly breaking, exclusive news. This is coming to us from Tom Biscardi and his colleagues. These are expert Bigfoot trackers, and they have found a hand, a leg, and a foot of a mysterious creature. So far, the experts who have looked at it have not been able to identify what type of animal this is. One said it appears to be a hominid. Maybe it's finally happened, folks. Maybe we actually have the remnants of a dead Sasquatch. And you heard it right here first on Speaking of Strange. And we have the access to all the inside developing knowledge on how this is going to proceed. And we will keep you updated first on this show.
Well, the people on the chat room are pretty darn excited.
Good.
So that's always our first indication of exactly what the listeners are thinking. Just seeing live what they are experiencing and reporting to us back on the chat room. And people seem to be automatically intrigued, so I'll be quite interested to see what happens in the next few days on the discussion board and other chat rooms. I'm sure that this kind of news will spread throughout the paranormal community, that remains have been found of some kind, and these remains are being currently examined, and people are going to become on the edge of their seats.
So far, we've gotten a whopping good 7 views on that discussion board link tonight.
Well, it's the night before Easter, you know. People are maybe, they're probably not sitting in front of their computer necessarily.
Looking at Bigfoot pictures, yeah.
Exactly. They're probably hunting Easter eggs.
I came to Asheville on January 30th, 1994, and March of 95 I started my show, which was 1 hour on WSKY, and it became popular overnight because, you know, we are in what we would call a belt of people that are desiring this kinds of stuff here. Talk radio. I mean, talk radio is one of the vestiges of truth that we still have. You know, they had me on the show here because I had a show here before on WSKY, which now is Christian programming. But at the time, it was, you know, my kind of shtick was called New Frontier in the Air because I came after doing my magazine for 18 and 19 years, New Frontier magazine. That was all over the world, too. Same kinds of things. That's how I get people like Deepak Chopra and all these famous people, because they remember me from way back. You know, once you achieve fame or degradation, once you have fame or notoriety, it stays around for a long time.
Well, we're going to get back. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about a non-judgmental Jesus and a non-judgmental God. My name is Verato, and you are listening to Verato Live on 880 The Revolution.
There was a story in the Raleigh News and Observer today that just I actually felt torn over this one. So, Forrest, if you feel motivated to jump in with a thought on this, you're welcome to. And I know you're thinking I'm setting you up on one of those gray areas, right?
Of course.
Do you think that evolution ought to be taught in science classes in public schools?
It should be touched on, yes.
Do you think that creation should be touched on and taught in the classroom?
Yes.
All right. Well, okay, you can't touch on creation or teach it in the classroom right now. Do you think that rules should be followed by the students in the classrooms?
Of course.
Do you think that they should speak out and confront the teacher when they hear something they don't like?
Yes, they should. Now, where's the gray area?
No, wait. That was like a totally opposite response. Yes, they should follow the rules in the classroom. Yes, they should challenge the teacher if they hear something they don't like.
They should vocalize their opinions when they think something's wrong. They should. But they should
all right,
do it
here
in
is
a
the
respectful
scenario.
manner. It's kind of like your front porch deal here.
All right, a classroom is a lot different than a front porch situation.
Not really.
I think.
Not really.
Well, it shouldn't it be?
I mean, you have rules for your front porch, don't you?
Well, that's true. We do. We do have some rules. But here's the situation. All right,
if someone disagrees with you, do you think they should bring it up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I know that you moved them to the front of the line.
Right.
All right. Despite what some may try to say on the blogs around the area that we don't allow people with opposing views on the show, nonsense. Yeah, you didn't think I saw those blogs, did you? There's certain blogs out there that you have to get membership to read, and I get copies of all the nasty things that some of these blogs say. But then when I've tried to apply to join them with my real name, they deny my access to it. That tells you something about their front porch bro. Yeah, with my real name. Oh, you're not going to get started on that, are you? About the whole radio name thing?
No.
Okay, we'll save that for Friday or some other day. But here's the situation. You have some teachers here in North Carolina that are trying to talk about evolution as they're supposed to in their curriculum, all right, for science class. There are kids now that are confronting the teachers and have been prepped from leaders in their church on how to confront it in the classroom and questions to challenge their teachers with. And so it's disrupting the classes, and there are certain areas of North Carolina or even across the country, really, where Christians in the class have ended up dominating the discussion and getting creation into the classroom anyway through defiance and challenging of the teachers trying to teach the curriculum. Is that taking a stand, or is it inappropriate behavior in the classroom? This is the gray area. See, that's the hesitation. What you just heard right there was Forrest processing gray area.
I am feeling the energy tonight. Maybe it's because Christ died, but I'm feeling the energy. I can't explain it.
The concept of God that we were taught about growing up, predominantly as Christians, in my case, a Catholic Christian, the stuff we were taught about God is wrong. There is no such thing as a punishing, jealous God.
Sometimes you do have to resort to prayer, believe it or not. Not always a bad thing to do. And you have to ask for guidance from above, from your higher self, or however you want to look at it, and say, this is beyond me. I cannot let go. I cannot forgive.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? I
very
tell
well.
you where I come down on this. I'm going to be honest with you. If the students have consistently been able to present facts that can be shown to be right, and the teacher is having a hard time dealing with the facts as they're presented, that's not a question of discipline. That's a question of the teacher indoctrinating students with wrong information. And that should be confronted. And I am surprised more parents are not confronting teachers when they are presenting wrong or at least questionable information as fact.
Well, now, but he's not getting – this teacher that they use in the example is not getting the chance to present the evidence that he has in the curriculum in favor of evolution. He's not even getting the chance to present it.
Well, I can tell you just from what you're saying, the information that he is presenting is questionable at best. So no, I think he should be confronted when he's presenting information as fact that is not necessarily true.
All right. What about to Islamic students who believe that our system of justice is not appropriate to the Quran? Should they also disrupt social studies classes or American history classes and enforce their religious belief on the rest of the classroom?
Can they prove it?
Can you prove creationism? I thought that was an element of faith.
You can't prove evolution or creationism, but the facts, I believe, tend to point more towards a creationism and intelligent design than they ever did toward evolution. That's an easily provable fact.
We're back with Paul Elder, the author of Eyes of an Angel, a true story about soul travel, spirit guides, soulmates, and the reality of love. And that part of love I want to get to also. But you say that God, Jesus, let's take Jesus because, you know, this is a Christian country.
And it's Easter.
And yeah, and it happens to be Easter weekend. But that Jesus, I never really thought about Jesus judging us. He always thought about his Father judging us. But you're saying that neither Jesus nor his Father, God or whatever, judges us.
Right.
So, all right, I mean, so I can go out and be a, you know, serial killer and a mass killer and I get my same space as everybody else or what? I got to ask it.
I'm Roman Catholic, but I'm very analytical. And when I say analytical, I work with many different faiths and different belief systems because not everybody out there is Roman Catholic. So over the course of years, that opened up a whole different world with trying to understand a lot of the different religions out there, and I find them very fascinating. But the bottom line, what I had found was no matter what the belief system is, most people believe in good and they believe in bad. They might call it by different terms, but all the religions out there do have rites of exorcism. They call it different things. They go about it in different procedures in different ways. But here again, the bottom line is they all have some type of ritual they do to help the people of that denomination.
We create our own reality. There is no fucking devil. Yet there is a devil because we create it.
Everything is connected in the universe. You know, everything is connected to everything else. It's all God's. You know, it's all God's. He's over it all.
Most fundamental Christians are not really comfortable because they're always in sin. If you're always in sin, you're not going to feel too good about yourself. And the whole thing with the King James, I don't want it in any way, shape, or form to knock Jesus, okay, please, because there's a whole different game out there. Did Jesus need our reverence? Does God need our reverence? That's another, you know, I say God. If God is all-powerful, omniscient and everything, you think he needs us to pray to him or her? Or that's so childish. If we look at the great teachers, I mean, I've read the Quran and I've heard these Taliban people. And it's two different things. It's like the antithesis of what he was about. And Jews that fight, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because once it becomes a religion, from my perspective, you know, they say, kill the Buddha when you meet him in the street, you know, burn down all your churches and all your mosques, get rid of them immediately. If I had anything to do, not only would I blow up every McDonald's, I would blow up every single church on the planet Earth. Or do what they do in Philadelphia, turn them into rock clubs.
Well, that whole thing of, can you prove it?
Okay.
You can't prove creationism.
Mike? Right.
Matter of fact, I think the Bible even talks about having faith in things you don't understand.
Yeah.
It's an element of it.
Evolution, we actually observe it happening all the time. You can take a flock of chickens and observe evolution over a period of time. Now, whether or not...
All right, you got two mics holding.
Okay.
I've always
Got another one coming in.
Yeah.
Evolution and creationism can go hand in hand unless you literally believe in seven.
Hey, Gail.
Well, you know, I've always wanted, you know, it didn't say that Adam and Eve weren't living in caves and kind of slunched over a little bit.
That's true, absolutely.
It, you know, they were running around naked, and then they discovered they wanted to wear loincloths or put leaves over their privates, you know, so they went from those harsh elements and everything to where we have skyscrapers today and fly around in planes and have people sending ships out to other planets to check it out. When I checked the definition of evolution, it seems like we've evolved.
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
I mean, we can fly.
That's a big step, isn't it?
So I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
I do not believe in God. That is such a nonsense, stupid thing that as if God needs my belief. It's like so childish. It's like saying, do you believe in the sun? Do you believe in the earth? Do you believe in air? No, I experience it. I experience godliness of the act.
I used to go to these Catholic churches as a small boy. I went to St. Michael's School, and I never picked up these candles because I thought God would strike me dead, but I had done it now, and God didn't strike me dead. Not yet, Verado.
Oh, be quiet. Wow. I no longer have beliefs. I have attitudes. I have viewpoints. But now I have a viewpoint. And now another viewpoint. Did that mean that viewpoint's gone? No, but if I believe that you're the only viewpoint, I'm going to take you all over and see only you. Which is, I'm seeing only fundamentalist Christianity, or Americanism, or the Rotary, or golf. And a lot of people do that. No, I have no beliefs. And I suggest all people take a look. I don't tell anybody. First I tell people, don't believe me. Because if you believe me, then everything I say after that can be bullshit.
I believe that, shifting over to the more personal side, that spirituality is something within yourself. It's not how many Sundays out of the year you show up to church. It's not whether you get a photo op with your Bible on the side of the cameras, as a politician. Well, I got to make sure the Bible's on the side where the cameramen are over here. That's not religion. That's not spirituality. That's political opportunism.
Right.
The people that need to be seen or need to be heard talking. When I see political commercials, they say, vote for so-and-so. He's a good Christian. Mm-hmm. David Koresh said he was a good Christian. What the heck does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm more likely to move away from someone who wears their spiritual belief out on the outside as if it's some kind of badge of automatic approval. Mm-hmm. I'm more likely to not trust somebody like that. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a strong person of faith that believes that we are here for a reason, that things happen for a reason, that there is a destiny that is given to each one of us. We all have our own gifts that God gave us, that we can screw up along the way if we don't stay true to ourselves. It goes back to being true to yourself is being humble before God. If God gave you certain skills and certain insights and certain abilities, if you don't use those, if you don't trust your instincts to do that, then you're disrespecting God.
I got the rapture and I went along with becoming a born-again Christian. And at the time I was 100%. I went out there and I brought something like 3,000 people to Jesus. On the streets of New York and Philadelphia and all over, I'm just witnessing for Jesus. Going along with the trip, feeling good when I did it. And many times with uniform. Then on the island of Malta, I was stationed at the Royal Naval Air Station, How Far, Malta, a NATO base, And while we're there, my CEO says, you got to go out and you got to witness for Jesus to these people here, because a lot of Protestant sects see Roman Catholicism as of the devil, So we had to go save these other Christians who were wrong. They were wrong. We got to burn them. We got to kill them. Some of these things went on in your mind, And there I was preaching, talking about Jesus, and it was right near the catacombs. I remember that you went down in the catacombs where, the Christians were burned or put after whatever on the island of Malta. I think Paul was there.
Yeah, that's right. Sure.
And so we got one. Paul didn't get in jail, but Verado wound up in jail. Because I got out, military call, but I'll never forget that. So when I talk to Christians today who think that I might be anti-Christian, I'll say, well, how much time did you spend in jail for witnessing for Jesus,
I myself am a Christian, good old Southern Baptist here. But you're taught as a Christian that once you invite Christ into your heart, into your body, then the Holy Spirit becomes one with you. Now, a person that's a Christian, how does that, if the Holy Spirit, which is part of the Trinity, is within someone, how does that allow for that demon to come in?
It's called free will.
Uh-huh.
Most people have a hard time understanding that. We all have free will. And at different points and different times, people do make mistakes. People do things that they kind of wish they didn't do. Once you grant permission for something to enter your life, then you can end up having major problems. Now, another key factor is what could be a grand prize. Someone that is an extremely, extremely religious individual. Doesn't matter what the denomination is. That is a grand prize for them to be able to win that individual over and enter their lives and possess them and cause all kinds of havoc. So therefore, yes, if you have an individual that walks completely in the pure light, they've never done anything wrong in their entire life, 99% of the time, they're not going to have a problem. But we're mortals. We're people. We make mistakes. Sometimes we get ourselves involved in situations that are completely innocent. And this is where a lot of times you'll find out that someone has granted permission for something like this to enter their lives.
I get it. I get into some good debates sometimes with people that call and say, well, this is a Christian nation. It's a Christian nation. And no, we're not a Christian nation. I mean, we are a nation that overwhelmingly is made up of people that believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior. Our current form of government, a constitutional republic, was set up as freedom of religion, as a society that recognized that people can worship in their own way. It doesn't say freedom of Christian religion. Right. It says freedom of religion. And so maybe I'm just, sticking too much onto certain words, but when people say, "Oh, we're a Christian nation," and they're talking about constitutionally, I'll ask back. So you want to have a constitutional amendment then? You want to change the First Amendment to say freedom of Christian religion? No, that's not what I said. I said yes, it is. It's what you just said. You said we are a Christian nation. No, we are a nation that supports and defends freedom of religion. Mm-hmm. So my whole thoughts on God and government and everything is that this whole thing of separation of church and state is it's such a politically taboo thing because one, it doesn't say it in the Constitution. Two, it was an individual letter from Thomas Jefferson to Danbury Baptist, and the whole separation of church and state thing is completely quoted out of context. But I believe that there needs to be a separation of state and church. And I think that's what the intentions were. Not necessarily a separation of church and state. It's not saying that, well, if you're involved in the political process, you leave your spiritual beliefs at the door. That's impossible. They're not your core beliefs if you're able to leave them at the door. Mm-hmm. But the separation is that the state cannot mandate, that this is the official state religion.
I think the majority of a lot of the guests I interview will call themselves, not a majority, but I'll say a great number of them, call themselves Christians, and then I come to ask them about what they qualify themselves, how do they feel, what makes them a Christian. And 9 times out of 10, believe it or not, it has nothing to do with a belief in Christ at all. They just feel if they do good works and treat people nicely, then they're a Christian. And that's not the definition of my form of Christianity, nor is it the definition of the Bible's.
The things that Christians has their, quote, written tenets that they don't follow. If we went back to these religions and looked at some of these things and begin living our life the way Jesus would live his life, things would change.
Tomorrow is Easter. I hope that it's a good weekend for many of you. And get a load of this. Florida State University scientists say, yeah, Jesus may have walked on water, but it's more likely that he walked on a patch of floating ice rather than liquid water, as described in the New Testament. Oceanography professor Doran Knopf says his research points to a rare combination of optimal water and atmospheric conditions for development of a unique localized freezing phenomenon that Knopf and his co-authors called Springs Ice. In what is now northern Israel, such ice could have formed on the cold freshwater surface of the Sea of Galilee, known as Lake Kinneret by modern-day Israelis, when already chilly temperatures briefly plummeted during one of the two protracted cold periods between 2,500 and 1,500 years ago. How about that, man? Is that undermining Jesus' miracles just a little bit?
It sounds like it.
Yeah. And, right now, there is all this speculation about Jesus being just a regular guy who had a wife, had a kid, who didn't necessarily do any miracles. Some say didn't even die on the cross.
He died for the sins of the people that killed him, not for people that were fornicating, not for people that were not keeping holy the Sabbath, which is nonsense. He died because of people's stupidity. They were so locked into their stupid dogma, their political religiosio system of the Judaic tradition, that they killed him. They killed J.F. Kennedy. They've killed Martin Luther King. They've killed Socrates. Throughout history, we can find that when the people want to wake people up, there is this. And I say, when is it going to stop? When are we going to awaken as a planet to know we don't need saviors any longer? We just need to wake up. Each of us is a particle of what we call God, be it fiction or be it real.
I think that there is an evil presence. Somebody who's got dominion over the destructive things, the things that will suffocate and drown out the gifts you've been given. That will tempt you down the path of not doing what you're supposed to do in life. To say you believe in God and then not say, and then say that you don't believe that there's also, a negative side of things, then I don't know how you can believe one and not believe the other.
Anybody that can turn water into wine, that's my man. See, that's the Jesus I want to know. The Jesus of love, the Jesus of life. Not some Jesus dying on some cross and we have to come into a church and be quiet. I want to come into this church and dance, and I think they've changed a little bit. But more and more we have to get rid of the morbidity of religion and come back to the life of aliveness, whatever that means,
I'm not even going to begin to try and say that here on earth, in our minuscule little minds, we can understand everything else that's out there. I think that's awfully grandiose of humans to believe that they understand everything.
This is child thinking. The same as people believing in the Bible as the Word of God. Give me a break. If it's the Word of God, so is Playboy magazine, and so is anything graffiti on the side of a building, because we're all part of the one. How can I be a child of God and not be a piece of God? And this is another thing about religion, right? In Christianity, right? Christian tenets, right? God is omnipresent. Not my words. This is Christian word. Omnipresent. That means all over, everything. So there's nothing that's not God. Lucifer is the son of God, produced.
Right.
I'm sure we have prodigal sons. So I say, first thing we do is love the devil, and we'll disappear the devil. The devil is a total fabrication of a mind. The whole thing of religion, at least Christianity has been handed down, is a whole control number. It is an insidious enslavery of mankind, as is the Muslims, and as is controlled by political structures, controlled by what we know as, I call them the Illuminati, the hand-me-down of royalty, royalty bestowed upon God's giving them the power to do that. Give me a break, I mean, a lot of people did say, give me a break, and that's why all the revolutions happened. A few people know this, that most of the revolutions that we know, American Revolution, you know that within a period of 10 or 15 years, we had the American Revolution, the Spanish Revolution, the French Revolution. All the revolutions happened about the same time. So it was a planetary revolution.
For me, it takes a much larger leap of faith to believe that primordial slime developed into the fine, intelligent, reliable, self-reliant people that we are today, than to believe that there's a higher power that created all the universe.
Become aware, become more conscious, take opportunities to look at more and other viewpoints, and don't, if you are strong enough in your religion, whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, if you are strong enough in your religion, and if you have enough of a, quote, belief or faith in Jesus or Muhammad or Krishna, right? You shouldn't have any fear about seeing other points of view.
This is a big topic. It's so important and it's so real.
When we started doing this thing on the internet, we were getting 5 or 6 people listening a night, and we knew all of them. Once we hooked up with OmniSound, and now we're up to, I think we broke, 17,000 is what we broke with, and we've shut down the servers several times.
We're talking to people. I mean, we're both kind of schmoozing, talking guys, whether we're drinking or not, and I think we got the gift of gab, so to speak, to talk to all these people. And we like the paranormal, and we enjoy doing this radio show, and we like to sort of bring these ideas to the forefront to a lot of people out there who may or may not know those things.
It's just a lot of fun, and it started out to be fun, and now it's turning out with Net Radio Group. It looks like it may end up being profitable as well. And
so that would be good. It would be able to fund us.
Yeah,
give us
the
some money to
advertising,
be
we can
able
buy
to-
better stuff, and we can reach more people.
Yeah, essentially, which is great.
Because we're hitting 13,720 tonight. We're hitting more listeners than a lot of your lower, a lot of your terrestrial radio stations are.
This is Speaking of Strange. It's more than a show, it's a saga. An epic struggle between man and the beyond, between us and the unexplained. We are the favorite program of hodags, wendigos, skunk apes, little people, and space aliens. And tonight, have giants been known to roam these Blue Ridge Mountains for thousands of years, sometimes living in caves, sometimes gobbling up trespassers? And if you trek into the wilderness, can you find evidence of their presence? Yes! And tonight, Lemur investigators give you the truth.
Ghosts are real. I've seen them. They haunt me in the night.
That's your concepts.
What is up with this Brokeback Mountain stuff anyway?
I've been doing talk here in this area for almost 10 years, on and off again, different time slots, different stations. And the last 2 years I've been here on WWNC, and this is when it's all clicked. First 8 years, there was good stuff and everything, but there was no paycheck. There was inconsistency as far as management, ownership, time slots. Get fired, get rehired, quit, get rehired, get fired again. It's the radio industry. That's why you got to take it one day at a time. I tell people that say they want to get into radio, I say, well, build you up a nest egg enough to where you can survive without income for a few months. Because on any given day, you could show up and find out that yesterday was your last show. And that's just what it is. A national host, he's retired now, but Ken Hamlin, Black Avenger, he kind of mentored me, gave me some really good advice. And the time that I was able to spend with him, he focused me on the long-term gains and said, stay with it. After about 7 or 8 years of thinking, what in the world am I doing? All of a sudden it'll click and you'll make money, you'll be successful at it and everything, but you got to stay in the game long enough. And sure enough, it was almost right to the month of how long you said it would be.
I love talk radio, and I did talk radio before here in Asheville, North Carolina. And it was so popular that a Christian coalition came and bought the station. It was WSKY. It still exists. And in New York, I did talk radio for a while, and then I moved on. And in Philadelphia, I had my own radio show there. So I found that it gave me an outlet. It felt good for me. It felt I was doing something that had some value, with honest dialogue. I think more people in their community should get together and discuss issues and talk about it themselves. Allow the news to, hey, I heard this, what do you think? And to just share, well, what do you think about that? And to question authority, continually question authority. And talk radio gives us this opportunity. You don't get a chance to question. You can't call in to Good Morning America.
I started doing radio back in college, 90.9 FM WQFS. It was I think my junior year of college. I did the same kind of format to the show that I do today, conspiracy theories, UFOs, ghosts, demonology, exorcisms, that kind of thing. Based on a large part, Lou Gentili, who still does a show, was kind of one of the people that kind of inspired me to do something like this. I'm different, I guess, from a lot of the people that come into this type of radio where they look up to figures like Art Bell, the godfather of this stuff. I think he's got a great show, but I never really listened to him. I listened to other offshoots of people that he made, I guess, big.
I was a high school dropout. I went to Brooklyn Technical High School, which is at the time at least, the top-rated high school in the United States. Only 2% of the people that ever tried to get into school got into the school. Less than 2%. But for whatever reason, I was a very, very precocious and very radical kid, and my father couldn't handle me. My mom died, so put me with my aunt. I lived with my aunt at the time. We were going to school, and before I hit my senior year, I decided I thought that was enough for school and I wanted to go in the military. But I wasn't 17 yet. So I actually forged my birth certificate. And I had my father sign it because even at 17 you had but you had to be at least 17.
I have a law degree. I went to law school. I chose to do internet radio because there was no other place to go at the time. You know, none of the terrestrial stations would return my phone call. So I said, well, that's fine. I'm going to do it my way. And that's what we've done. And now we've got over 20,000 on average, 20,000 listeners, internet listeners a night per show that we do, over 20,000. That's a lot. I think it's better than a lot of terrestrial stations. We get a lot of emails. We get the same guests that they do. We get some guests that they don't because they won't want to touch them. You know, the great thing about internet's not controlled by a governmental establishment. It's not controlled by the FCC. So we can do whatever we want.
I went into the military, and while I was in basic training, they take these tests. They were called GCT. It's the same as an IQ test, but it's a military. And I got 64 on it, which is tantamount to about 154, which put me in the IQ list of being a genius. So that was it. And I went through my basic training, and I was going to be a regular deck swabby kind of a guy. And they tell you, where would you like to be and all that stuff. So you give you choices. I said, I'd like to be in, the air part of the military, the Navy. And they said, okay, so they sent me to school. I went through NAVCAD training, Naval Air Cadet. And and I became a pilot. And I got out as an ensign, and I was stationed with VP-7 up in Brunswick, Maine, in patrol bombers. And I flew patrol bombers. And these are like, got in a bus, big, props. They were all pretty much props except for your jet fighters. And this was during the 6-Day War or something that happened in Israel. And we actually were carrying nuclear warhead. The purpose of the nuclear warhead, we would track submarines. And the idea is, it was a state of war condition red. And we carried it, and the idea was that you drop it, and wherever you were, anywhere near the submarine, you'd blow it out. So there I was. Not old enough to drink a beer, but old enough to carry a nuclear weapon and fly a bomber for the United States Navy. Talk about weird.
My personality is that I've always been, an outgoing person. I'm not shy about getting up in front of people or getting to meet everybody at a crowd. I want to say hi to everybody because I love talking to people. I like seeing different personalities, how people react, what's their story, and I just love being around people. I stopped worrying about keeping the job a long time ago, and it's not because of any big contracts or anything like that, but because I've been fired so many times.
I am a real living Swami. I'm initiated in India, and I've got probably 800 to 1,000 followers around the world who are my disciples. So I fit into that category, Yet I'm also considered a dirty old man, and I have a very young, attractive wife, and I've tried everything you can imagine, right?
You need to tell the government to come see me. I'll help them out.
Yeah.
I predicted Osama bin Laden. I have witnesses. I wouldn't tell you that. I didn't know who it was, but I knew it was going to happen. A year and a half. I didn't mean to predict it. Just happened when I was talking to a group of people. I was on tape. I'm not making it up. I only tell things I got witnesses for.
So I have these followers, and they want to wear lockets around their neck, and they want to adorn me. And I said, no. How you adorn me? You should bring me a 6-pack of good beer. That's how you adore me. That's bullshit,
Josh, guitar, harmonica. We're gonna jam. We gotta get together soon and start practicing up for our big gig.
Oh, we're gonna have to. We don't want a lot of booze. We want a lot of cheers.
Yeah.
Go get 'em, Lemur.
I've played keys on stage twice at middle school talent shows. And
Really?
Yes. And I've never actually, to be there with a crowd of people in front of us who is paying something for this music it's going to be a little intimidating, but at least I'm going to be one of the background guys.
So once you have a dogma, then you lose. So one of the things about Tantra is to let go of all dogma and to experience. So, today I might say one thing. Talk to me next week and I might say something else. I'm getting back to New Age lately. I'm trying to use that word again because I look at it from a Christian perspective. I was also a missionary for the Church of Christ. I have a distaste for the term New Age. Not because it's a Christian term, which it really is, but because I really don't have a lot of room for obese psychics in my life. I'm sorry, and that's just the way it is. I think that if they are psychic, mazel tov, more power to them. But I don't have a lot of room for a lot of stuff in the so-called New Age. one time I was with a lady friend, young lady, beautiful blonde lady, and this was before I had advanced to non-genital sex, and we were having sexual intercourse, and she disappeared. She physically disappeared. She was on top, and I remember there was a piano behind. All of a sudden, I'm entering my orgasm, and as I'm entering my orgasm, I guess this was one of these Star Trek-y kinds of things. If you see, like, her atomic structure, she just began to come apart, but like electric, like pieces of electric. She disappeared. She just disappeared. I saw the piano, I saw things on the wall, and I remember going into the scream. I was screaming as I was in the orgasm, and then I heard myself screaming from afar, and she disappeared. And I say memorable because at that moment, had she disappeared, this holographic form of a magazine with a name on it even called New Frontier showed up. And I was instructed in some way to talk about what I'm talking about now and put it in print. And I did for 20 years with New Frontier magazine. Has the magazine disappeared in front of her? She came back. I told her what happened. We ended the relationship with a couple days after that. And I found myself almost as I don't know, call it a zombie or whatever. And this was before, no, this is years after. I had come back from India already, so I had gone through a lot of processing, doing Zazen meditation, 10 days at a white wall, and lots of mystical ritual things. So that was a memorable experience because 20 years later, I was still publishing the magazine, which became an international journal. Today, people still talk about it. 2006, people are still talking about the magazines. So that's probably a memorable time.
I've always told people the most interesting things in radio happen during the commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And it's true. It really is true because as upright as you try to be on air, and well, at least for me, I won't speak for other people. There's some people that have made a career out of trying to shock people and be vulgar and everything, but I try to make it where on air it's a show that I'd be okay with my kid listening to.
Right.
And if we have things we talk about that aren't appropriate, then I'll give people a heads up warning. But during the breaks, I've had to ask for forgiveness a couple of times.
Every show I do this breathing exercise. What I really do on the show is I hypnotize people very, very quickly.
Nice.
Within 2 minutes, I get them to listen to the show. That's why it's so rated. I suggest you do it.
I was ticked off about something at the end of the show, and somebody was trying to confront me, and I just ended it saying, "I will always take a stand," like that. And so I was ticked off for a few days, so I always ended it with that, and it just stuck. And now, 10 years later, still doing it. And when I started here on this station with Clear Channel, the listeners are the ones who named it "Take a Stand," not me. I was like, I never thought of calling it that, even though I've said it for 10 years, or 8 years at the time.
I was walking along Broadway in New York, West Broadway, I'll never forget it. And there was a 300 block because it was maybe 50 or 60 feet before Samuel Weiser's bookshop. Samuel Weiser's bookshop is the oldest recorded metaphysical occult bookshop in the United States of America. So here I am working for a company in New York called Keystone Electronics, I remember it. And I think it was a Friday because I was going to deposit my check in the bank. And I'm walking along, and I had no drug experiences at that particular time. During the time of the big drug trip and the hippies and all, I was in corporate America, anti-marijuana kind of so there was no drugs involved, no alcohol, no nothing, no heart attack. Walking along, next thing you know, I had this feeling of total euphoria in my body, which I can only describe as an orgasm, perhaps not as pleasant. The first time I felt wheezy when I smoked a cigar when I was about 12 years old, and I guess at some level as if I was falling. The feeling as you're in bed you're going to fall. And there were two bright flashes of light, which at that time I never had any. I just thought it was around noon, and I just assumed it was a reflection off a skyscraper. Since then, people have told me other things. People have said that this person, Virato, is a walk-in, because everything changed. I never shaved. I stopped eating meat. Things came in. I started seeing things I couldn't. I started hearing things I've never heard before. My sense of smell increased. I've talked to numerous psychiatrists and psychologists and scientists about this, and they could say nothing about it. I didn't really have a stroke, and it's pretty much continued ever since that February in 1976. Immediately from there, I went into becoming a manufacturer's representative, selling electronic components myself, like becoming my own representative. And with a year or so, I had an income of over $1.4 million a year. I left my wife within a month or two, just as Jesus left his family, and Krishna left his family, and Buddha left their family, and something happens. Some of the books say snapping. There was a book by some psychologist 20 or 30 years ago called Snapping. Who knows? I still today don't know. I am who I am. Who is Virato? The name was given to me by Rajneesh in Pune. The name used to be Joe Banks, which, you know, Joe Banks in a volcano. And Virato means eternity. More women came into my life, and it was during that period of time where actually I had sexual contact with 2,000 or 3,000 women.
So you haven't cut your hair in 25 or 30 years?
No.
And once I get to 4:30, that's when I start planning out, like going into, I think it was at the news break at the bottom of the hour, I was looking at how many calls I have, I know about how much they last each, and looking at, okay, how do I want to get geared up for the, in the last hour and a half, I try to manage the time much better. When we get into drive time, there's a formula to it.
Did I snap? Am I crazy? I have gone, because I thought that, I have gone to psychiatrists and psychologists, I've taken tests, and they don't find me crazy. And I've had these, myself, I wanted to know, am I crazy? What about these beliefs? So I had batteries of tests done, I've had scans on my brain, people have felt my energy. I can teach you how to have 100 orgasms a night, very simply.
I might shrivel up and be high.
See, that's another idea people have. See, again, stick with the, if you believe that someone says you have cancer and you believe them, you're going to die, you know? I live a dynamic lifestyle. People who don't live a dynamic lifestyle, most people live a static lifestyle, they will see somebody that lives a dynamic lifestyle as being nuts.
I had situations where I'd have a guest in there and, they'd hear the show and they're thinking, oh, this is good, it's quality stuff. And I'd convince like a senator or something to come. And I have to say, oh, watch out over there, don't step there, you'll go through the floor or something. And I had somebody in one time, and I think it was a publisher of a paper or something, and a bird started flying around their head in the studio, and they're trying to dodge it while I'm doing the show. I'm live on the air.
Dushan Jursi, he was an explorer, from a Dutch explorer, and I interviewed him for New Frontier magazine at the time. After I had finished the interview and Terry Gross finished her interview, it was lunchtime, so we went over to a Chinese restaurant in Philadelphia. As we were sitting down, I said to him, oh, by the way, Jursi, one of the questions I didn't ask you is, have you eaten human flesh? He says, yes, Virato. Here, would you like to try some? And he takes it out of his wallet, his little package, and it's like beef jerky. And it even had the bone in it. It was a finger. It was a sun-dried finger of this New Guinea black tribes person. Well, here I am with these two lovely ladies, and my macho came to play, and I'm nutsy enough. I said, for sure. And I did. Guess what? I don't know about white people, but at least black men from Borneo or New Guinea taste like pork.
I think that's why the show's been as successful it is this region knows that I'm really committed to it.
Yeah.
People know I'm for real. I'm not some corporate person coming through Asheville trying to get to Charlotte. Like this is, I'm just going to do what I have to get up the next rung. No, this is where I want to be. This is where I love. This is where I chose to come to.
I have gotten people off alcohol, off of heroin, because the principles of Tantra are to reach elevated states of consciousness. And this phenomenon we talk about is the orgasm and sex. There's side benefits, not just for procreation, but it feels good and it's fun. You imagine if sex didn't feel good and it was fun, it's the end of the species.
Yeah.
So, but there's another side benefit in that there's an electromagnetic force field, and if you can stay in that space for a long enough time, healing will happen.
What got me to where I can be as confident and comfortable to say what I think on the air is that I stopped myself from thinking about it too much. Does that make any sense? I mean, it really is a thing where, the more wet behind the ears I was, the more I was thinking about what I'm going to say. The more I was thinking, I'll try to time out the cadence of things like stories and to keep a good flow going and things. But as far as what I'm going to say, I usually hear it and process it in my ears the same time everybody else does. It just goes brain, mouth, out in the world, then back in the ears and to the brain that thinks. You know, but getting to the point where you're okay with that, just, and it keeps you more honest too. You don't have to worry about remembering, well, what did I say about this issue last time? Because you just let it flow. You just open up. You're kind of like a jazz musician. Just let it go, and wherever it goes is where it goes.
I love getting out fishing. I don't get to do it as much as I used to, obviously, but with a family and job and everything. Fishing used to be my job, so yeah. It's all about identifying your goals. If the fish are primarily over in that corner, which they are, then the goal is to enjoy the time out here and getting to chat and just cast it out and enjoy the birds and the insects, the breeze, the trees, the flowers, the ticks, all the good stuff. And then it doesn't matter if you get any hits or not. It's all about identifying your goals.
I'm simplifying my life every day. Simplify, simplify, simplify. I would like to talk. I love to talk. I like to share these things with people not because I think I'm a great teacher. I was gifted by just being ballsy enough and revolutionary enough to go out and to experience. See, I don't believe, but I relish experience. Give me an experience.
I don't think that having a human experience is necessarily, meant to be always a vacation kind of life, which is the kind of life I'm planning next time around if I get a chance again. But, sometimes I think it's really hard, and we have to have, in order to have the full human experience, we have to really, in fact, have many human experiences.
Yeah, there's plenty of screw-ups in my life, some people say, well, when I was a kid, I screwed up as an adult too. I've got plenty of screw-ups. I think most of us do. What a boring life if you didn't screw up once in a while. You wouldn't know the good stuff when you had it if you didn't know bad times too.
I have seen plasma coming out of cemeteries in New York at night. I have levitated. I've seen phenomena. Things move, things like that. Can I take it to the point of after mortal death of the body, will I exist and go on? I don't really know. That's the truth in there. If I say anything more than that, it would just be more fiction, and there's enough myth and fiction out there. Although I like it, if there wasn't myth and fiction, how would we have all this fun, How would we have a society where people think everything is real?
I was goody two-shoes. I was Beaver Cleaver growing up, man. I was mama's boy through and through. My biggest screw-up was we had an underground fort out in the woods, and we thought, we'll wrap some T-shirts around these things and make torches to go down in our underground fort. Well, it's polyester and it dripped. So we're walking out through the woods at night, not realizing that everything behind us is starting to go ablaze. About 17 acres burns down, And we said, oh yeah, we saw some people out there at our fort, and they were wearing camouflage pants and long hair and everything. They ran across the cornfield. We dodged. I think the statute of limitations is up. I hope so. If not, strike that from the record.
We'll edit this.
Yeah, edit that out. Check out the Massachusetts statute of limitations on arson. But ends up that there was actually a guy walking on the other side of the cornfields that had camouflage pants on and had long hair. Now, what were the chances?
Yeah.
Did we say anything about it? Hell no. Fry, dude. We're not gonna get busted. So there's different things. I think everybody screws up.
You just make a stop and get grounded. Get rested. Get back where you need to be. You're going to find where you're going. You're going to end up where you need to be when you need to be there after all.
I don't stop at red lights in the middle of the night. I look. But even when the light's green, I drive in the city. I look. I'm not stupid enough to just go through an intersection because the light's green. Because some fool on the other doesn't believe either, right? And whammo, our beliefs will meet. And, my karma will run over his dogma or one of those kinds of things. No, so it's not, if people have a hard time understanding about belief and points of view and attitudes and how does one lifestyle, how do you flow? I go with the flow.
I grew up trying to be so good. I just didn't want to get messed into drugs or anything. And so that made me a target. Everybody knows the type. There's the goody two-shoes. Don't drink, don't smoke. What do you do? We got to get him stoned. And so somebody slipped me a big old fat ganja brownie, and I woofed it down so fast, didn't know what was happening. And a little while later, we were playing cards or something, and I noticed I started squinting, like, can you turn the lights down in here? I was sitting in a Pompazon chair, I remember this, and it was on the floor, so it didn't have the base, it was just the rounded bottom. And I started rocking around, like, this is amazing. This is just like being on the ocean. I started getting real deep about it and everything. And then I remember sitting there staring at my cards, and I couldn't figure out what the hell to play. I was just staring at my cards, and I'm like, nothing's coming to me. What game are we playing? And then the people around me started cracking up. I mean, they started dying laughing. I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden it started to dawn on me, oh, wait a minute, okay, I'm not actually the way I usually am here. It took me until they were laughing to realize it, and that's when they told me, and I got pissed. I mean, I got pissed off, because I had committed my whole life to not doing that stuff. But you know, in hindsight though, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it personally, just because I don't like not having control of my capacities. But I'm glad I had the experience. I know what it's like now.
I have tried heroin, I've tried cocaine, I've tried every drug probably available. I didn't mainline, I don't have tattoos, I don't have piercing.
You see this building here? For $500 a month, for 2 months, I rented that whole building. I had a rave, and you can tell people about this, the Asheville Police Department. I had a rave, and we had it on the whole top floor. We had about 500 kids there. Now, you know, I really don't advocate the use of LSD except in very controlled medical circumstances, because it does destroy the brain. So I'm really anti-drug, and I want to point that out too.
And if I died tomorrow, I've had a good life already.
Oh,
But
yeah.
if I died 10 years ago, I had a good life already.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
I have no fear of death.
Back way in.
880 AM, The Revolution. Asheville's home for progressive talk.
Now expand your consciousness as The Revolution continues with Verato Live, bringing you a holistic viewpoint, a different revolution of sorts.
Yeah, and I'm going to have Al Franken start to look at breathing. All our bush bashing hosts here on 880, we're going to have them do, no, I love them all, and I shouldn't say the word. We have on the line Catherine, and she quit. She hung up, she heard me say that, and that was the end of it.
If you're gonna be on the air stating opinions for 15 to 20 hours a week on air, you're gonna get tagged with things by people that don't like what you have to say, and rather than try to counter it, they'd rather diminish you.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the game. That's fine. I like it.
When I'm filling on your show, if I want to get people riled up, I make fun of Bush for a little while because I know it's going to do it.
All of the so-called liberal radio and Bush bashing, for me, to listen to these things is infantile.
Mm-hmm.
I think that these liberals are they're almost as if they're part of a script that George Bush wrote and handed to Stephanie Miller and Al Franken.
There's a line you don't cross, but it's also why I think a lot of people don't get involved in like politics and everything, because they're like, oh man, that ganja brownie from 92 is gonna come up, man.
I'm not only an iconoclast, but I really respect and honor revolutionaries. But now I feel that there's another kind of revolutionary, and that is like when they announced the show, a revolution of a different sort. Because I think that all revolutions that we've had have basically failed.
When I look at politicians, the ones I like the most are not necessarily the ones that I always agree with, but the ones that are always true with what they believe. They say what they believe, and they get heat for it, they get people upset, protesting them or something, but come election time, guess what? The people put them back in because they respect that the person says what they believe and they stand by it, and they're the same person that they are now as they were 4 years ago. And so those are the people that I look up to.
Political correctness has just taken a different viewpoint. It's gotten too out of control. What happened? It's become such a problem that everyone's constantly having to apologize for something that shouldn't even be wrong in the first place.
Right now, everything seems dictated from the top down. It's one size fits all. You will do as you are told to interpret, choice A or B. Both choices are provided to you by the government institution, that's not really a choice in my book. You know, it's kind of like, well, you're going to choose a Republican or a Democrat. Well, that's not really a choice to me. You know, you got green apples and red apples. They're both apples.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of other fruit. There's a lot of other fruit out there that aren't on the menu because the Democrats and the Republicans don't let them. They control the process. I've never been able to have anybody show me where in the Constitution it says political parties should be running our government. I can't find it, or the election process or anything. It's just not there.
I have issues with abortion. Now, people think I'm a crazy liberal, but I think, depending upon where it is, I mean, right after impregnation, no. But within 6 or 7 weeks for a woman to have an abortion, just to know that, nothing wrong, nothing right, but she's killing a human being. It's murder. Now, is murder good or bad? I don't know. The state of Texas, they murder more people every year than anyone else. Legally. George Bush and his gang. So capital punishment. We go to war. Do we think anything wrong with killing 100,000 Iraqis? We just do it.
Yeah, I believe abortion is wrong. Should we legislate it and make it illegal? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's something that we should have control over. I don't think that's something that should be legislated. On the other hand, I personally think it's wrong, but I'm not going to put that out there. It's like, you know, if you don't agree with me that God is the way to go religion-wise, I'm not going to make you worship God. You know, you can worship whoever you want, or you can worship nobody. It doesn't matter to me. That's your God-given right. This is my God-given right. The same it is to light up this cigarette and smoke it.
I'm really against war. I'm against capital punishment, but I'm not against, you know, taking people out of society. I'm very much into creating not a devil's island, but called Paradise Island. Take these criminals, these crack addicts, get them out of our society. Get these rapists and stuff. Take them out. Don't kill them. I don't want to have to add that to my karma. But just get rid of these people. Don't put them back on the street. Crazy people and all that stuff. So in some ways, I'm very, 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 very conventional and Republican. Not Republican, but very conservative.
Now I'm falling more to the right, but I still consider myself a moderate. I wouldn't consider myself a liberal by any means. I wouldn't. I think that label is attached a different meaning to it at this point in time. It's something it used to not have.
I rebel against those labels and those camps and categories because I don't know what they mean anymore.
I don't classify myself as a liberal or a conservative because those are just names, okay? I say that people are conservatives are basically people that carry fear with them. And things such as being shy is really fear. So a conservative is, you know, and a liberal is, I don't have those labels.
So give us a number, Matt.
Number?
Just at your psychic ability, how many fish you'll catch?
You measure the hits, not the fish brought in.
Measure the hits?
Go after the hits, not the catches.
Okay,
it's a numbers game. If you think about getting the fish in, then you're focused to the wrong step of the process. You got to be focused on getting them to hit. Going back to the catch or the hit. Again, you know, you're focused to why you do what you do. You know, in talk radio, I don't focus so much to the results of the conversations we're having, but rather the fact that we can get a good conversation going. You know, and let the chips fall where they may. People can respond to any of the issues they want, you know, left, right, up, down, whatever it is. But if I do a good job as a host, in my opinion, then I'm able to spur a good conversation. I'm able to get people to come up and hit. You know, and I'm not so worried about the results of it. I mean, I've got my own opinions on things, and I might crusade for an issue or try to expose some corruption or anything like that. But I'm not so necessarily interested in getting someone removed from office as I am getting the issue out in front of people and getting them talking about it. Yeah. That's the big thing.
Here's another wild card we haven't brought up in the whole gas thing is Venezuela.
Right.
And the wrangling that's still going on down there, the saber rattling. There's even been violence down there now. And the president, Chavez, he just continues to up the temperature on this confrontation. He's even promised to use his military to attack any U.S. expansion or movement into Central America. I mean, he's looking for a fight, and he's whipping up nationalism almost to the tune of what you see in Iran. But yet, where is it in the headlines? Oh, well. You know, I guess they look too much like people that live here, so we won't cover the controversies. We got to target people with darker skin over in the Middle East because that's more consumer friendly to an American audience, I guess.
I think you and some of your callers are kind of misinformed here, and you've been leading people astray. Okay,
inform me and get us back on the right track.
I'm going to try. First of all, the spin you're hearing about the hurricane fear factor, that they're raising the price, there might be some truth to that, but that's not at all the whole picture. First of all, you may not be aware of this, but there's an oxygenation item that's added to all gasoline, and it has been MTBE, and that's illegal now due to the EPA. So we have to use ethanol for that. There is a shortage of ethanol now in the United States because there are not enough refineries to make the ethanol to go into that gasoline.
Right. You're talking about government regulations as far as emissions and things.
EPA regulations for clean burning gas. Secondly, a lot of the refineries in the United States have to do their annual cleaning, and that's done about this time of year. And therefore, they're shut down and can't process the crude oil that comes in.
Did they just start doing that this year?
Every year they've done this.
Why have we not had huge spikes like this in the past then? Did it just get all of a sudden expensive in 2006?
Well, it's combined with the fear factor in Nigeria. I'm not sure you follow world news, but there are 500,000 gallons less per day out of Nigeria because the rebels have shut down some of the production units down there. I'd like to furthermore address the guy that talks about the Brazil thing, the sugar cane.
Yes.
You can't grow sugar cane in North Dakota. You can't grow it in Texas. You can't grow it. Practically the only places you can grow sugar cane in the United States is Florida and parts of Louisiana. You can't possibly grow enough sugar cane. So what do? We use corn. You can't grow enough corn to produce the ethanol. Furthermore...
Wait, back up. Don't we have the government paying people not to grow crops?
Not corn.
But they have farmland, right? I mean, our tax money is being used to pay people to not grow crops that could benefit us, and what you're saying, move us away from oil dependency. We don't have them doing that. They're not using that farmland for the crop. Why? Because the government is paying them to sit there and not use the land.
Well, that may be true for some crops, Matt, but not for corn. The two major...
So plant a different seed. I mean,
Wait a minute. What are we talking about? We're talking about ConAgra and Archer Daniels Midland, ADM. They have huge corn farms. They have been paid by the government to do that. Do you realize that every gallon of E85, you are paying a 54-cent subsidy as a taxpayer to the people making that ethanol, and those are the corn growers.
Well, I'll tell you, you're not calming my blood pressure at all.
Well, I know I'm not.
My frustration about it, because what I'm hearing is government regulation, government subsidizing of big corporations not growing crops, regulations of development.
Maybe not growing crops. I don't know what crops you're referring to that they're not want you to grow.
Right, but see, each of the things that you're getting me back on the straight and narrow path and informing me with points again to government interference in a truly free market situation where our gas prices might actually come down.
That's true.
Around 2012, the planet as we know it is coming to a great upheaval and change. The majority of people on the planet are going to die because there'll be diseases and stuff like that happening and all. The Seventh-day Adventists say there'll be 144,000 people. So politics as we see it right now, and of course the Christians are very much in favor of it. They're wanting us to go to war with Iraq. They're wanting us to go to war with Iran. I mean, they already did the Iraq. Iran is Persia. This is Mesopotamia. This is exactly what the Bible says that will be the end time. The war will happen in the end of the planet. And of course, when we're waving nuclear, right? But you know what? It's all going to happen about the same time.
All right, so Rumsfeld saying a strike on Iran is fantasy nonsense. They have the nuke capability. They're saying they're going to wipe us and our allies off the face of the earth. But an idea of striking them is wild fantasy. But yet we go into Iraq and they belittle anyone as un-American who questions it because someday they might have a nuke capability that they might try to use against neighbors.
Bush is a president.
Tell me, you neocon, how am I supposed to look at it?
Bush thinks things are a fantasy around here. So, in essence, yes, it's possible.
What? You absolutely make no sense whatsoever.
Exactly.
But I mean, am I misunderstanding something? Iran has threatened us. They're defiant. They have the technology. They're flaunting it. And an idea of actually striking them is wild fantasy. But yet we go into Iraq for what they might have that they could do something in the future possibly.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at North Korea. Why do we let them slide also?
They don't have oil.
Good point.
Same reason we don't go into Sudan. We're all for liberating an oppressed people, right?
Yeah.
Tell that to the millions of refugees and the hundreds of thousands killed with a machete in Darfur.
All right, let's do it.
They didn't have the right skin color for our government.
Evidently not.
Get that? In politics, whether it's a school board or county commission or anything, you get bogged down into bureaucracy. And bureaucracy is the death knell of any progress.
Yeah.
For anybody's political perspective, bureaucracy kills it. Perfect example right now, the immigration issue. President Bush and a number of the Republicans are pushing for an amnesty-like type piece of legislation that Democrats have always wanted. But now Democrats are against it. Why? Because Republicans are putting it forward. But it's the same damn thing that Democrats were trying to get in the 90s.
Yes.
Which is amazing to me. It's so obvious and blatant partisanship, it drives me nuts.
In every country in the world, what you see is when immigrants come into a country, in the older part of the United States, what happens when you have immigration and influx? You don't change to become a part of their culture. They change to be dissolved into a nation with what your nation is. I know that the United States has no national language, but they should, and it should be English. That's what we should have here. It should be English. These people come over here and expect us to learn their language. No, What needs to happen is, if I were going to move to France, for example, why I would, I don't know, but let's just say I would, for example. If I move to France, I'm going to learn French. Why? Because, well, let me see, I'm moving to France. They speak French in France, right? That makes sense to me. So if you come to America, you learn our language. If you don't like America, that's fine. If you're a citizen, it's your right to complain about it. I hope you do. But if you don't like it so much, then you can always leave. We don't keep you here against your will.
I think you could probably say, all right, let's see more of an allied interest in the war on terror and bring our guardsmen that never signed up to be on active duty back to the United States, and they can actually do what? Guard our nation, National Guard. What a concept. We can put them on the border and secure the border, then start worrying about what we're going to do with the 11 to 12 illegal, undocumented worker aliens. You like that? I just came up with a mutually offensive phrase. If we do that, then we can secure the border, then we can start worrying about what we're going to do with the 11 to 12 million people that are here that shouldn't be.
As a talk radio host, I don't have the bureaucracy to deal with. I don't have to follow a judicial process or, Robert's Rule of Order or whatever it's called. I just look at an issue, I say what I believe, and then I invite the phone calls to come in unfiltered, and then let the games begin. You mentioned Rush Limbaugh. He says all the time, how, I'm not out here giving marching orders and everything. Well, there's been times I do. I'll say, here's the person who's responsible for this legislation at this point in the process. Here's their phone number. This is the time of day they're going to be there. Now, I won't tell people what to say, but I'll say, look, this is the issue that we're focused on. This is the impact it has to our daily lives. And so this is the person to call and tell them what you think. When you get down to it and you start analyzing history, whether it's Boston history or Civil War history or anything, you read the documents of the day and you read the actual historical accounts. They don't usually match up with what it says in the history books in school. Never look at it from the fisherman's perspective. Always look at it from the fish's perspective. Same thing in life. Look at things from other people's perspectives. If you're talking about politicians in talk radio, look at it from their perspective. What would it be like to be sitting in that legislative chair in Raleigh or in Washington or anywhere? There's been times I've come on and apologized for the way I rip into somebody. Yeah. I have. I'm human. I lose my temper sometimes. That's where I get in a lot of trouble with listeners. Is, they feel like I don't rip into people enough. A lot of talk show hosts make their career in belittling people, and I try not to do that. I'll challenge people on a point, but I don't want to put them down. WWC.
Okay. Are you listening to the show right now? Right, and we're also talking about gas prices right now, too.
It's It's always a bad sign when the producer says, "Are you listening to the program right now?"
Right. Okay, I'll see what I can do. WWC. What's going on? Okay. Okay, are you listening to the show today? Are you listening to the show right now? Okay, because we're not on illegal credit card numbers right now. We're on Okay, give us a call back Friday when it's a free-for-all, okay? Okay, thank you.
And we have a guest host in the studio. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that people are locked up for smoking pot. I think it's crazy. Now, I think that the measurement ought to be if someone violates someone else's rights. If they're a danger to other people or something. If you're out there driving around at 15 miles an hour because you're just afraid of I'm going to get pulled over if I'm going too fast. If you're a danger to other people, then it's an issue. But if you're sitting at home and you're not going out anywhere and you choose that you want to do that, all the power to you, man. As long as you're not infringing on someone else's rights, I don't think the government has any business saying you deserve to be in prison with rapists and murderers and everything else. It's crazy to me.
The things I used to do with my friends when I was younger, driving down to the local fishing hole, if I did it in North Carolina today, I could be pulled over and cited for violation of the law because too many kids were in the car with me to go fishing. Ridiculous. Government, too expansive. Right now I really believe that anybody that's listening to me right now, there's some law that you broke today. I'd almost put money on it if I had some to give away. But I just wonder how far it's going to go before people say, you know what, maybe this whole idea of government regulating every little thing to protect ourselves is maybe not the best way to go with things.
Asheville City Council decided with 4 of 7 to say that unaffiliated voters in the city of Asheville, which is the second largest voting bloc, are not going to be given equal access to local elections. I'm unaffiliated and I pay taxes in Asheville. As a citizen, I was not going to sit back and watch that happen without them hearing about it. Well, they voted to not allow public comment at the meeting, which is consistent. I mean, if 4 people can tell 15,000 that they are not going to be allowed to have an equal footing in local elections, of course they're going to tell an unaffiliated single voter or taxpayer that they can't speak at a city council meeting. It's completely consistent. But I came up to the podium, I was called up, and I started to offer my comments, and instantly the city council, under their direction, the mayor started gaveling and saying, you're not allowed to talk about this, and we're not taking comment on it, and threatened to shut off the microphone. As she got louder, as the mayor got louder, I got louder, and they shut the microphone off, so I made sure that I used my dad voice, that everyone in the chamber could hear what I was saying about disenfranchising 15,000 people, and I said, what everyone is about to see is exactly what this council has just done to over 15,000 people in the city of Asheville, North Carolina. Because, I could feel the cops coming up behind me. I knew it. I could sense they were coming, and the mayor was threatening me with arrest. So I knew what was about to happen, and so be it. So the police hauled me out of there against my will, and I yelled the whole way out. That's what happened.
As I remember as a kid, I was raised in a milieu of fear. The alarm would go off, go onto your desk, the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. So you can imagine when I wound up marrying a Russian woman and having spent time in Russia, and you know what? They thought the same thing. The Americans are coming, the Americans are coming.
A woman from Moscow wanted to learn about the magazine business, so she came to Philadelphia where our offices were. And I had already been a sannyasin since 1980. This was around 1990, 92 or something like that. She came to the office, and actually it's interesting because her father single-handedly was responsible for the end of communism in the Soviet Union. He was the editor-in-chief of the Moscow News, and he started putting stuff that was, anti-communist in. Normally they would expect the KGB to be at their offices the next morning. Although, it was time for the change anyway.
We're taking a stance now in America where anything that offends anyone is open for some kind of retaliation. For example, I was listening to Neil Board's show the other day or the other week. He was talking about kids in England now being required not to raise their hands, not being allowed to raise their hands out of fear of the other students feeling bad because they didn't know the answer, and the other students that did raise their hands did know the answer. So we don't want to make the ones that didn't know the answer feel bad because, well, this is, this would hurt their feelings and make them feel dumb because they didn't know the answer. Well, isn't that what it's all about? I mean, isn't that what competition, free market, capitalism isn't? If I come up with something, shouldn't I be rewarded? Whereas if you don't come up with something, you shouldn't be. Otherwise, we're moving down a track towards socialism, aren't we? This is America, isn't it? This is a democracy. It was founded upon these principles. It was founded on these things, and now it's just like we're trying to push that out, but we're attaching a different name to it. We're not calling it socialism. We're not calling it that. We're calling it, I don't know what we're calling it. Progressive? Okay. You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess we could say it's being called progressive. I think it sounds to me a lot of times more like communism than socialism, but then again, they're pretty close brothers, aren't they?
I'm peacocking.